Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real. Gentlemen, boys and girls, all my people out in internet land, greetings and salutations. I am William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege of serving as the host of the Black USA News morning show. And today, we have an opportunity to talk to an entrepreneur, to a person who, people talk about buying the block. We're going to talk about somebody who has started buying the block. And also, not just that she purchases stuff and that she's trying to build her business, but talk about some of the lessons that she's learned along the way. And as you can see, she's right here with me. I know, the other way. Bianca Jackson, welcome to the show, Bianca. How are you doing today?
I'm fabulous. Like I told you, I just woke up from a nap, so I'm ready to go.
That's the beauty part of doing a thing yourself. You get to wake up when you want to go to sleep. Let's be honest, when your customers say that you're okay to go to sleep.
Exactly.
One of the things I tell people all the time about business when they talk about like, oh, I'm going to be able to control my own schedule. It's like, I had one boss and then I got 20. And all of them think that they're as important as any of the other because they paid me. They if it wasn't for them, something, my job, something, pay my bills, something, words, something else. So yeah, I love to make sure people understand that because a lot of times my clients come to me and they're like, well, no, I can da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, no, honey, that's not even the way it's going to work. Like, let me tell you what's going to happen. But you see, okay, so let me tell you about some of the things about being on the show. I have issues, okay? So like I have not necessarily narcissistic personality disorder, but maybe like narcissistic tendencies as somehow my gravity pulls in all the conversation toward me. So I'm going to try not to do that today, okay? All right.
Okay.
So in that vein, Bianca, tell them about yourself. Tell them about you, who you are. They know me. They see me every day.
Well, so I think it was really important to share where I came from. So I'm not from Baltimore. I'm from Philly, which is about an hour and some change up the road, as I like to call it. I come from neighborhoods very similar to the ones in Baltimore, right? Where you had all Black people everywhere and it was beautiful. And so, yeah, and that was many, many years ago. And so I like to tell people I love Baltimore because it's Philly 15 years ago, like before all the gentrification. And so for me, it's like nostalgia. I'm able to walk around and I'm at home. And so when I remember I told people that I was leaving Montgomery County because I lived in Maryland, Montgomery County for about 15, 16 years. Then I moved here. Oh, sorry about that.
What's up?
Okay. They asked me, why did you leave the richest county in Maryland to come to Baltimore? Like as if it was an insult, right? And for me, it wasn't. It wasn't an insult for me. It was like I was going home. I was coming home, and like to be in neighborhoods and to be able to walk around to see some of the same buildings that look like the buildings that I grew up with, the ones that I used to hang out with my friends and my cousins and my family. Like it took me back to childhood. And so, yeah, part of it is buying a block, but also part of it was reclaiming my sanity, like being in control of my mental health. When I lived in the DC area, I remember working in Virginia and it taking me 45 minutes to get there and an hour and a half to get back for 11 miles. 11 miles, right? And so I was just like, forget this. I need to find a way to really cut down my commute. And so as I started looking at other places to go, Baltimore is where God brought me. And so now I'm here. And so I just wanted to share with anybody who may not know of me already. It's like, while I have not grown up in Baltimore, I'm growing up in a Baltimore adjacent city. So I know how Baltimore adjacent. So I know how it works. I know how, or I've been experienced when you are in places where, normally Black people are in power, that they still have businesses, they still have, land and real estate. And so that's changed drastically over the last 15 years. You don't find that as much in Philly. And so I came to Baltimore almost kind of like with a warning, right? Like I've already seen the game, the play that they come out with the game book. And so it's just like, or the playbook, I should say, and just like, all right, people, you may want to get in on this before it turns into New York, Detroit, Philly, any of those other places that were, high population of Black people. And now we're, we'll be lucky if we're 50% of the population. So,
and also in those places that you named, it's not just that Black people aren't there. Some of it is that the Black people who remain are the ones who really shouldn't be there anymore because they've been priced out. The people who can actually afford it get more for less money, say in the adjacent county. They still get the benefits of living in the city and working in the city, being entertained in the city, but they take their money and their especially money for schools, because that's a big deal. They take that back to the counties or wherever they live, and it becomes this exploitive situation. And so the only people who are left are the people, again, who shouldn't be there, or let me take that back, who we should have protected before all this change happened.
And that's the big word, protected, right? So I think protection also comes with education and access to resources, right? And so when you have somebody kind of sound an alarm, like, hey, I'm not from here, but I'm telling you what they about to do, like, hopefully is enough warning to, inspire people like, okay, like if I come here and I'm doing really great work in the community, like I'm not trying to exploit anybody. Like I'm really like I'm putting my resources into a new community that I'm not from. You would think that that's met with like, okay, we hear you, right? So how can we come together and really figure out how to make bigger impact? And so that's what I came to Baltimore to do. And so I learned some really valuable lessons coming here. And I know we
learned about doing business in Baltimore.
Yeah, and we talked about this off camera, but I would say when I first got here, there were 5 names that I got, right? All Black men. And people told me I need to talk to these men. So I talked to all of them. I know them from a can of paint. Some were nice, some weren't, but I still went through the list, right? But for other people who weren't necessarily from Baltimore, they were telling me things like talk to the politicians. And it didn't feel right in my spirit. It didn't feel right in my spirit because going back to what I know from Philly, like, yeah, you can talk to the politicians, but the people who really are doing the work are the people in the communities. Right. So you go talk to the people in the communities and figure out how you can be an asset, how you can amplify whatever they're doing, work with, people in the community. Like for me, I chose artists because art is what I love. Right. And I wanted to pour into the artist community that was here. And so that's what I did. So I didn't go after the politicians. And unfortunately, the politicians that people pointed out, they ran into some trouble in the first couple of years that I got here. And so it was a good thing that I didn't make those associations and try to navigate those circles or whatever. And so it wasn't until, I met, I guess you could say like somebody else who wasn't from Baltimore, but somehow she navigated the networks in Baltimore. And then she started introducing me. And then it was like, okay, whose man is this, right?
If you got a resource and somebody doing some good work, we need to shout them out. Who's
Quinn and Tamika.
Yeah, big shout out to Quinn Conyers.
Yes. Very, very, but also a person who's just really authentic in her work. And so that always makes the difference. It's kind of like when we had joked, like when someone introduced you or no one introduced you and people are looking like, who is that? The phrase is, whose man is that, right? And if nobody can claim that man's, that man's is going to stay over there until somebody can claim him or someone can say something like, don't claim that man's, right?
And it rolls into this whole idea of authenticity and reliability. From the small business perspective, a lot of times small business owners are like, well, why you need this reference? Why do I need this type of collateral? But it's the same thing we do with whose man's is this? Like a lot of people come to, especially in Baltimore, I've seen, I can't say, I'm not speaking about anybody else's community, But there are a lot of people who come to the community and they really do mean well. They
Mm.
really do. And they honestly believe that they'll be able to achieve all of these great things that they see.
Right.
But they don't know Baltimore. Don't know that you can open up the best business on the planet that serves everybody's needs. But if it's on the wrong side of Charles Street, if you're trying to support people who live on the west side, but your building is on the east side, or vice versa, you may go out of business. That is not something. There is no. You know what? I might write one of these books about how to do business. Let me write.
Yes, write that down. Okay. Because it's a really good point, because I didn't understand the difference between the east and the west side, right? And so, like, I watched The Wire. I say that because I think that's everyone's pretty much reference for Baltimore, right? And so even in the show,
For those who are not from Baltimore, that's
right. Yeah. For people who aren't from Baltimore, they watch The Wire. They're like, they've heard about the east and the west side, but they didn't take in consideration how important that is. And so I realized
in life, like in literally, I've seen people who they don't mess with each other. They met, oh, okay. Oh, where you from? I'm from over. Oh, nah, we good. There's no reason. Nah, I'm okay. I was like, yo, yeah, that everything you said you wanted, but she from over west though. Like, go ahead, yo. Can't mess with no broads from over west. Nope. Them West Side chicks is crazy. Nah. Yeah. Like literally, you walk across Charles Street and you hear the exact same thing on the other side.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think that is important for anyone who wants to do business, especially Black people who want to do business in Baltimore and want to actually be in the community and doing really great work. It's like all these idiosyncrasies you got to understand, right? Like all these nuances you got to understand. And it's like, it's not for you to come here and change anything or anybody. It's for you to figure out of the work that you want to do, where's the best need? Like, where can you find, how can you help amplify what's already happening and how you can kind of fill in a need? But in filling in the need, you still have to find a way to benefit the people who live in the city. And so one of the things that I learned is a lot of the big institutions who come here and do work, they siphon resources out of the city. Yeah. And so once I realized and saw it with my own eyes, I was like, oh, okay, well, let me. Yeah, I got to back up off of this, right? Because, you know, when you don't know, you're like, oh, let me see what's going on. And then you see it, you're like, oh, it's like you hit them with the Homer Simpson meme where you go back in the bush. Right. It's that type of situation. And so even like, for example, I used to work for the school district in Philadelphia before I moved to Maryland many, many years ago. And so public education is super important to me, and kids, right? Kids, public education. Mm-hmm. When I got to Baltimore, I had an opportunity to be a STEM teacher at Dr. Bernard Harris, right? At some wild third graders, but they they were my everything, right? But the program that I went through was with a large institution. I will not, shout them out here, but they had, some questionable, reputation in the city. And I didn't know that when I signed up. I was just excited to teach these Black kids STEM, right? And so, unfortunately, the program didn't last that long because of the reputation and like the strained relationship that they had with the school. But I'm like, these kids missed out because of this large institution's reputation. I'm like, man, that's crazy, right? And so people sometimes have good intention, but because their track records or their associations with other organizations can bring the whole thing to a full stop. And so I think that's important to mention, is just be very careful with like who you partner with when you come to the city. And just because someone's a large institution, sometimes that could be the worst partnerships.
And it depends also who you're trying to serve and why you're trying to serve them.
Mm-hmm.
You're just in to get some data, you're in as part of your career transition. I can't even knock you for messing with some of the large institutions. They put you on that fast track. And again, how you choose to live your life, that's on you. But if you really want to talk about changing and having significant impacts on communities, there are people at those institutions, but you got to know who mans it is, because they all wear the same lab coats. They all got the same IDs. They all, first name is doctor, last name is all PhD. It's like they're all in the same family. Mm-hmm. But just like a family, just because your last name ain't Honolulu, you may not be cut like me. So as you are starting to work with people in these large institutions, like for example, big shout out to Dr. Phil Leaf over at Hopkins. I remember I used to work with this organization called the Fraternal Order of Ex-Offenders. Brother Ellsworth Johnson Bay was the president, founder, and CEO. And Phil Leaf, he's a researcher over, I think, at the School of Public Health, or this, I think it's the School of Public Health or Criminal Justice or something like that. And he was coming into the community, one of these community meetings, and he's there and is looking very professorally, and he's like, we want to do this study and the data, so this data can help us understand more on this. And Brother Bay got up and said, "White man, get out of my neighborhood experimenting on us." Oh, wow. That what you did right there, all of that. Oh, okay, all right, this is what we're doing here. Okay, yes, but I guess we're here now. I guess that's what this meeting is now. Okay.
I mean, like, how do you come back from that?
But you know what? You know how he came back from it? He's like, "Yep, I'm a white guy, and I'm trying to do the best. I would like to work with you." Okay, so that's cool. But honestly, we've been in the game long enough. We hear that all the time. Actually work with us. And what's more, and this is one of the reasons I give him shout outs. I haven't actually talked to him in about 5-6 years, but one of the reasons I give him a shout out, because he kept working with the community when the money was funny. So like he found resources to continue the work when there was a break in funding of a grant that the community project that he had been working on with the community. And again, some of it was self-interest because it kept his research going and stuff like that. But it would have been easier, real talk, for him to start again. Just to find another organization, and honestly, probably better quality data, because now you have a comparison group. But instead of pushing it that far, instead of just digging in that way, he found a way to keep that program going. And so again, whose man's is that? We not boys, but I claim Phil Leaf a little bit, you know what I mean? You gotta still check him out for you, but I know him, I know. And that's the other thing in the community, people don't understand. There's levels of how much is my man's you are.
Yeah.
There's something like Keisha Wallace, Nicolette Lewis Saint, Dr. Nicolette Lewis Saint. There's certain people that Brian Olds, certain people that if I send you to them, I don't even think about it again. Erica Myers. Now there's some of them, like I'll call you first, be like, "Hey, I'm about to send somebody over to you because I need to give you a heads up because I know you, I know them. I might need to you might bump heads, whatever." But there's levels to it, and some of those levels, depending on who sends who to me, changes honestly how I engage you. So for example, Quinn sends somebody to me, I'm like, okay, they get a lot more of my time, and I'm willing to hear them out further than if I just meet them. There's some people that if they send somebody to me, given their track record, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a 10-15 minute meeting that's going to go very, very quickly unless they say something good in the first 3 minutes. Because the person that sent you has a track record of sending me trash, or clients who are not ready yet, or at least clients who lie to themselves and to me about their readiness.
Oh, wow.
So again, I may know because who referred you. You may know, kind of like I'm sure that you've had, and we ain't gonna get to talk about your business because I'm just having fun talking to you. I apologize.
No, it's okay. No need to apologize.
But like I'm sure you get from time to time a certain type of person or a certain type of organization who comes in is like, "Oh, I'm looking for this, and we're gonna do all of this stuff, and then we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do that. Oh, can you do this? Because we might even need to build out this and that and bring in this and have this." And then it's like, yeah, but we got like a $750 budget. How much? You got streamers?
Let me tell you something. What's funny about what you just said? That happened last night, not necessarily on the budget end. Someone called about a venue. Their venue canceled at the last minute. Their event was supposed to happen on Saturday. So they asked for pricing. I gave them, they're like, "That's it." I'm like, "Well, should I charge you more?" Right. So we kind of started laughing about that. And so she was really excited. She's like, "I'm coming down there tomorrow. I'm here waiting for the tour." Nobody shows up at the time. I text her. She goes, "Oh, well, thanks for reaching out. I'm not coming." How we go from super excited, thanks for almost saving my life, to you don't even tell me you're coming for a tour that you booked yesterday.
Right. Less than 24 hours ago, I'm sitting here waiting. Now, one of the things, there's a couple stuff. Wow. Couple things.
Yes.
I want to talk about. And sticking with the business theme for right now, like, how do you, because I know as an entrepreneur for me, like because I deal with a lot of disinvested members of disinvested communities, time is not necessarily something that a lot of people are even capable of managing themselves.
Yeah.
Because if you're taking a bus to come and see me, you're not the driver. Like there's nothing that you could do to make that work.
Right.
So what I do is I like have extra work to do. I always assume I look like a homeless person most of the time I go places. I have bags and computers. Like I could set up a whole studio anywhere I go at any point in time. You never know what's gonna pop off. You never know. Got lighting and everything. Oh, by the way, that's how I'm here today because I had a bag with me, and I'm here live. Here at live from Light Health and Wellness Comprehensive Service Incorporated.
Nice.
So yes, but again, I carry a lot of stuff with me. But I know for a lot of entrepreneurs, like that's not possible because the stuff you do is on site. Like you don't have extra work you could do. Like, oh, I can't let me bake some stuff while I'm here waiting for you, or let me decorate while I'm here waiting for you. Like, so how do you navigate these types of like ups and downs? Because I'm sure this wasn't the first time that this happened.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, this is pretty common, but what I normally do is bring my computer. So in the moment where someone books a tour and they don't come, it's just like, okay, well, I can go catch up on the financials, right? I can see how much money we made. I can see how much more money we need to make. Like, I just really try to keep an eye on that. And also I keep like a running list of to-do stuff, right? And so for anything that's like small tasks that I can probably knock out in 5 to maybe 20 minutes, I'll start working on those things, and maybe things that don't require a lot of brain power. In those moments where there's missed appointments or people don't show up for the appointments. Yeah, basically missed appointments.
Yeah. That's real progressive about how you like actually deal with the activities you go in. But let's be honest, how you deal with it emotionally. Because I know sometimes it's like, especially like, okay, so I'm gonna give you a scenario, me being in there. Okay. I get the phone calls like, oh, what? And because real talk, when as an entrepreneur, when I get the call and people start booking stuff and getting excited, I automatically figure out what I'm going to invest that money in, what bill I'm gonna pay, so this is my case study, not yours. I ain't gonna put this on you, put this on me. So I'm on the phone, I'm like, oh shit, that's a whole car payment and insurance. Yeah, come on in tomorrow. And overnight, I'm like, I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna do that. I got my contracts ready? Okay, all right. Oh, I was because as an entrepreneur during COVID, especially, sometimes things get a little tighter than you're comfortable and used to them being. And so you sitting there and you're like, all right, they coming in. You know what? I thought they'd be early because they was excited, but they got 2 minutes. I mean, they only like 2-3 minutes late now. Parking take we got a parking lot, but maybe, they could be wrapping up a call.
Are you funny? But yes.
And then you text, hey, because you feeling a little nervous and anxious and some more stuff. And so, but you don't want to sweat them. You don't want to seem like, yeah, so just checking in. What time can I expect you? Right. And they like not comment. You bitch. Damn, I got another fine. See, I get into character, and then I forget. And Donnie has rules about cursing, so
I love it. So I would say, for this morning, honestly, it was like, man, I could have still been asleep. Like it literally was that. I had one of those nights where I was working till 1 a.m. I woke up somehow, some way at like 4:50 in the morning. Then I was looking around. I was like, I should go back to sleep. Went back to sleep, woke up at 7 and like 7:50. And the appointment was at 10. So I got myself ready, to get ready for the tour, got there. And I'm like, okay, so I literally could have been asleep. So that was the first thing. The second thing was in having the conversation like via text, it was this, I don't know, I just felt this disregard for my time.
Yeah.
Then I got mad. I got mad. And then there was I had 1 second where I was about to say, well, normally when people can't make it, they let me know. Right. I almost said that. But then I dialed it back.
Wait. The petty is strong with you. I sense a commonality in the force.
Right. But a lot of times I don't let it out. But one of the first thought is petty, right? But then I was like, I dialed it back. I just said, she's like, thanks for letting me know, but we won't be coming. I say, you're welcome. and then left it at that, because you never know in the future, will it turn into something? Now, had I told her, well, most people let me know, then that could have been a whole exchange that I could have lost more time over. So yeah, it worked out. But I don't know. I think a lot of times, and I think this is funny, customers complain about businesses, but customers don't realize sometimes how bad of a customer they are.
Oh no, it's not their fault. It's not. It's not. You just don't understand them. This is, again, as somebody, again, not narcissistic personality disorder, narcissistic tendencies. I can tell you that sometimes it's because it makes sense that it's not your point. Your thing, because your intentions are pure. I just want the best for you. I will gaslight you for your own health and well-being. Yeah, I don't believe you can make good decisions about your own life, so I'm going to help you. Now, one of the, and on that same vein, one of the things that you talked about was that before you came to Baltimore, is your experience with Baltimore was The Wire. And what ends up happening is that when that homicide, the coroner, all these things that expose the drug life, and in some cases romanticize it, all of those became the frame of reference for people. So I was working with this one nonprofit organization. We used to go around the country, doing trainings and stuff like that. And people were like, oh, you from Baltimore? Do you have a gun? Have you ever been like shot at for real? And the thing is like, some of the questions they would ask me, it was like, yeah, but that was when I was in PG, so that don't even count. So like, no, you're focused on the wrong thing. You're asking the wrong question.
But no, that's a good point, because I think a lot of people don't realize that every city has its bad parts. So the same stories that you saw in The Wire could be applied to Philadelphia. Actually, could be applied to Philadelphia right now. I want to say, last year they were dealing with unprecedented homicide rates. Like, it was just ridiculous, right?
And on top of that, watch this. On top of that, y'all part of Pennsylvania, and y'all got a lot of QAnon there. Okay, that's so we might got like racism, but everybody got some of that. We got some ignorance and bad, but y'all got QAnon. Like when QAnon is like real whole, like they control counties. Like we got Republicans that control counties. Y'all got like QAnon counties. So we're not the same. I'm sorry. I gotta. Now Philly is one of my favorite cities outside of Baltimore on the planet. Like internationally, like one time I had a choice of a couple of places to go internationally, and I was like, I want to go to Philly. They're like, you don't even got to get on a plane for that. But can we though? And I took a plane from Baltimore to Philly. Like it took longer, felt to get to like cruising altitude than it took to get down. But I took a plane. I felt like a boss. I was like, yeah, that's what happens when you take a plane to Philly, dog. I used to take a megabus, baby.
I'm loving this. So wait, so how long was the flight from Baltimore to Philly?
From takeoff to landing, less than 45 minutes.
It should have been less than that, because driving is about an hour and a half, maybe two.
Remember, because think about when you're not just driving up 95, because you got to circle around some shit, and you got to go to the airport, and then you got to land. And all. When I tell you, like, pulling away from the gate to pulling into the other gate, 45 minutes. Not even like just flying time, but like pulling in to pulling in.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, the flight time was probably like 20 minutes, if that.
Yeah, like, and I think some of it was, and like I said, it felt like we spent more time getting up and down than we actually spent flying. Yeah. And you know what? I appreciate getting up there slowly and down slowly. Like, you know what? Go ahead and do that. Don't rush on my account.
Yes.
So funny. So what have you learned about the differences between what you saw on The Wire and what you thought you would find in Baltimore and what you actually found when you got here?
Well, I would say this. The Wire didn't scare me because I grew up in North Philly. Like, so the stories that you guys had in The Wire, or the show had in The Wire, I should say, were very similar to stories or just experiences that I already knew of since I was a kid, right? So this was like, again, adjacent city. Like, there was nothing new about it for me. Okay. So there was no fear. I just know that every time that I talked about Baltimore, that was the first reference that people mentioned. Oh, is it like The Wire? Are you afraid? Do you lock your car at night? Do you like just crazy?
Hey, yo, you lock your car at night? Like, where you live, in the woods by yourself? Like, bears don't have thumbs, so I guess you're okay. Like, what the hell are we talking about?
I mean, like, people ask the craziest things. And so, like, for me, like, it had no effect on me. I just knew that, unfortunately, The Wire left the city with a black eye, from a marketing perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was no fear. I wasn't afraid of coming here. I actually didn't know anything about the neighborhoods. And so how I even got here, my realtor sent me properties on the map, and I just pointed at one. It's like, I want to see that one. And the only thing that I knew was it was by water, and that's where I wanted to go. Generally in real estate, if you don't know nothing about real estate, if you have an opportunity to buy a building by water, go buy that. And so I knew that. And so I did, and I got like a really great deal. And so, I would say it's kind of downtownish for most people who don't live here, right? It's so funny because when I talk to people about Baltimore, where Brick Rose is, they're like, oh, it's like Fells Point, Canton. It's like, we don't really call it Canton. It was called something else back in the day. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. They did the same thing with DC, where North Massachusetts Avenue became Noma. But in order to sell something, you got to give it a brand new name, right? And so I'm just saying. So the same thing in Philly.
In DC, and I was there for first 14 years of my life, and I got issues with how it is.
Oh, I have issues too. That's why I had to leave. But even in North Philly, right? So where I grew up, we knew like the name back in the day was like Brewery Town, right? So this is where a lot of the German immigrants moved into. I would say probably anywhere from the early 1900s to maybe about the 60s. Around the 60s, Black people moved into that neighborhood, and the last German family moved out like in the late 80s. Like the father died and the mother was there, and her family came and was like, oh, you got to move because there's nothing but Black people around you, right?
Yeah, this moms,
Yeah. And so over the last, I would say 20 years of gentrification of my neighborhood where my mom still lives, they brought back the name. So they refer to it as Brewery Town, not North Philly, to make people comfortable living there. And it has been successful. So on the main Ave where I grew up, there's all these shops now that didn't exist before. You got, dog shops, cafe shops, CrossFit, artisanal sandwiches. And so when I came to Baltimore, I was like, look, I already saw the game plan, right? This is what's going to happen. They're going to get y'all to move to the suburbs, to the county, as they call it here, right?
Out the county, because now it's not just the county, it's out the county.
Out the county. Don't get you to move out the county. Give up your real estate in the city. Have the prices drop really low. People are going to come in and buy them. And then if you ever decide that you want to come back to the city, it's going to be too high for you to afford it.
Yeah, and the thing is that a lot of that plan is contingent on individuals not under their life circumstances are squeezing them so much because of the lack of resources in regular other parts of life. Mm-hmm. Where I was reading something recently that the average Black net worth is like $17,000 or something like that, and the average white net worth is like $170,000, or like white household net worth versus Black household net worth, like in an order of $150,000, over $150,000 difference in net worth. Mm-hmm. That also means that there are certain things that you don't get an opportunity to do when you have a lower net worth. You don't get an opportunity to think about stuff.
It's okay. So even with that though, I want to say there's some studies out that say as early as I think it's either 2037 or 2047 that network for Black families will hit zero.
Yeah, no, I've seen. I didn't know how far along it was, but I have seen they made reference to it. I haven't read the study, so I can't speak to it. But I have heard that is there's a study that study does say that.
Yeah. And so that's one of the reasons why, we kind of, I wouldn't say pivot, but added, for the business beyond just live events, but events in the metaverse, like really exposing people to technology so that I feel, me personally, Bianca, feel like one of our best efforts for mass generational wealth transfer is through technology for Black people. And so I really, through Brick Rose, my goal is to help as many Black people understand, like, one, what is this technology, and then how can I use it to make money? So
okay, so how are you integrating the real life Brick Rose? Well, you know what, let's take a step back.
Okay.
Tell them what Brick Rose Exchange is. Tell them how to get there. How long we been here talking? I ain't even talk about the address or nothing.
Yeah, so
She seemed like a really nice lady, and I enjoyed the conversation. But like, what'd she do again?
okay. So Brick Rose, I like to describe it as a collaborative meeting space, right? So we engage the community audiences live through live events as well as events in the metaverse. What that means is, we're actually physically located at 2216 Boston Street in the Canton neighborhood near Fells Point. So not too far from downtown. And so if you know Captain James, Sip and Bite, we're in that area. So I know a lot of people when I say that, like, oh yeah, I go there all the time. I love it, right? So so we're in that area. So what we're doing with the technology is, one, showing people how they can have events in virtual spaces. And so there's a lot of people who still don't want to go outside because they think everybody nasty. And so they're
right. In the bathroom recently, somebody left out of a stall from beside me, and they walked out without washing their hands. Just filthy McNasty.
Filthy McNasty. So for organizations, nonprofits, even individuals who are trying to figure out, one, either how to build hybrid experiences where there's some live component with a virtual component, metaverse events can be really helpful for that. For people who are just like, I don't want to do anything live because I don't want the overhead costs of a venue, food, parking, all that other stuff that comes along with live events, we do their events in the metaverse. And so one of the events that are coming up at the end of the month is actually a housing seminar. And so I'm really excited. Yeah, we're going to be working with O'Hara Developments. And so they're going to be talking to people who want to come to Baltimore to actually live and, find ways to make money. So them acquiring properties that are owner occupied, I think that's the term for it. Owner occupied, they live in the building, but maybe they're renting out, I don't know, the bottom floor for a storefront, or they're renting out another apartment in the building for other people. And so I really like what they're doing in their model, because it's getting people to literally real talk invest in Baltimore. I think a lot of conversations that I've had with people since I've gotten here, especially those outside of Baltimore, the whole idea of the dollar houses, which I think are just ridiculous. That's my own personal opinion, not yours. But people who want to invest in the city, but they want to try to do it at the lowest cost possible, which I really feel doesn't really impact anybody but your pockets. And so
that's why a lot of people come for Baltimore. That's why you got to be related to somebody. Yes, whose man's is this? It's like the Wild Wild West. Everybody's at the gold rush.
Yes,
everybody sees Baltimore has a lottery win and everybody's trying to get some. It's like, whoa, calm down. I don't even know you like that.
Right.
Whose man's are you?
Right. And so part of my mission in talking to people who don't live in the city is no, move to Baltimore. And they're like, move to Baltimore. I'm like, yes, move to Baltimore. And so while there's all this development happening, I think that there's great opportunities for Black people. And I'm going to specifically say that, to come from out the county back into the city and come from other cities to really invest and make significant impact here. When you start looking at, I'll just go back to public education. I wouldn't have been able to be a STEM teacher for DBH, right? Dr. Bernard Harris, if I wasn't necessarily inside the city limits, right? And so that was one of the conditions of the program. And so, if you have aspirations to I don't know, just impact or be a part of something bigger than yourself, it makes sense to move to the city and figure out how you can plug yourself in and not just extract. I think just for me personally, I have a problem with people going places and extracting. It just it gives me colonizer vibes. So
vibes. You was a colonizer. You on the smallest. You a colonizer without the resources. Stop playing.
Yeah, but the thing about it, sometimes I think some people don't even think that that's what they're doing.
Many of the colonizers didn't either. I'm trying to bring you Jesus. How can you live your life without the Lord or God?
Ooh, you about shots fired. You about to get some emails.
Just walking around without God on your side. I will save you from your savage ways, baby.
You about to get some emails. And if
you don't want to drink of his blood, I will spill yours, Jesus.
These are the views of William Honolulu. But you are absolutely right. Yeah, it's sometimes it's going to take people that look like us to check other people who look like us, right? I personally don't believe that that's the right way to go into communities and siphon resources. You got to put something back. It's almost like, I don't know, just really simple recycling, right? You got to put something back, because if you don't, you're a part of the problem.
But I tell all of my clients and my personal life philosophy, and it guides like all of the stuff that I do.
Yeah.
Any problem I have, I start with the question, how can I help somebody else? Anytime I'm trying to do anything, it's like, all right, I know I need this, but wait. What can I do to help somebody else? What I find, some of it is my own mental health trauma and stuff like that. No doubt, like I'll own that part. But for a lot of us, especially in the Black community, being Black is traumatic by itself. And so there are a lot of these things that we have grown up with, a lot of the things that in many cases our parents did to try to help us survive, that really made us less capable of thriving.
Yeah.
There have been times, where it's like, hey, so I tell I share this with the audience often. It's like, I'm kind of embarrassed that when I was in high school and they talked about the Nazis and they were talking about how bad the soldiers were. And I was like, the soldiers weren't bad because they were just following orders. So long as you're following orders, you don't have to get in trouble. You're just doing what people told you to. I hadn't realized how I had been conditioned for that for a number of reasons. One of them was because that's how we stayed safe. I grew up in DC in the 80s with the young crew. Rayford Edmonds was running stuff in DC and PG before PG was Black like that. Like we, in where I grew up, started this whole more than 300 a year killing.
Wow.
And so, my mother's a good Christian woman. So she was like, oh, no, you all can't go. Anything I tell you, you better follow. You have to follow directions, because it was literally a thing of safety. If I tell you don't go over there, you just see that they sell ice cream in that store. You do not see the men you have to walk by in order to get in there. And so, she had to condition us and my dad that we follow directions. I don't need you to make judgments. You don't know enough about this world to make judgments. Plus, they were from little podunk towns. Like literally, the first time I drove as a grown up to my dad's town, I drove by it. I not even joking. Swear to God, I drove by his town. My mom's town, literally now in 2021, that was last year, has they got it in 2000, summer 2000, the second stoplight in the town. So so they moved from there in 50s and 60s, 60s and 70s to DC. Yeah, and then in the 80s, all the crack happens, and they really do teach us for our own safety some things that become challenging and problematic as we get older.
You know what? I'm over here like lighting up, and I was like, should I share this? Should I not share? I'm going to share it because this is the type of conversation we have now. It was actually just in my spirit this week how my parents and like my grandparents kind of taught us, don't mess with white people, right? Don't mess with white people because we don't want you to get hurt. We don't want you to nothing, right? And like how
we know you can be lynched. They
exactly
might be right now. I was with you. I got told the same kind of thing.
Yeah. So my grandmother is from Fairfax, South Carolina. So it's a little small town, like in the country, right? My dad grew up there partly, right? And then he went back for high school. And I just remember, and so my family, my dad's side of the family is like Gula Geechee, right? So the coastal north, so they got all that going on, right? The past history and whatever. And I just remember thinking about them always saying, don't mess with white people. And I remember I said that to one of my girlfriends, and she just looked at me like we were in our 20s and 30s at that time. And she just like, what do you mean? And like, it was just so ingrained, right? As it was a mechanism for safety. Yeah. And like, even now I'm thinking about how, while it may have served me then, it's not serving me now. And so they're people just like everybody else, right? And like,
the other part too is that you have grown to be more capable of navigating those spaces. The same store now I can walk through or assess whether I should or not. Because I have greater experience. And all the dudes standing up there, like, depending on who they are, they may see me with the little grin, like, oh, what's up, Unc? You coming through?
Yep.
Hey, young man, how you doing? Like you keeping the neighborhood safe, brother? All right. See, I got enough grade I can pull that off. Or it could be like, what's up, y'all? Cool. Depending, because again, I'm in that real awkward age where I believe I'm still cool. I know I'm not. I know I'm not. But I'm still young enough to believe that there's still some vestiges of cool in me. Like as I look down at my New Balance, like legitimately look at my New Balance right now, I realize that is a false statement altogether. I think I jumped the shark. And cool. I've never really been cool. Let's be honest. Like I looked at my high school yearbook photos. I was like, yeah, no, you're good. You were the most likely to succeed. That's pretty much it.
That's your claim to fame.
That's pretty much it. The best. No, that's it. No, you're good. You're good. That's a good one. Be happy, sir. You don't need clothes. You don't need cool. Yeah. Sorry. I like, hey, they know. You might not know. They know this is still all part of my therapy. I'm working through a whole lot of stuff. And
yes,
work through it. So, you know, y'all, we all have, it takes a village to make me healthy. Okay. That's what we're doing.
Very good.
One of the things that you talked about, well, actually not to them, to me, I keep forgetting they weren't there for that.
Right.
You talked about how you had to pivot during COVID.
Yeah.
You opened up your business before COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you had things were going COVID free, and then COVID hit. And your business relies, like your entire business model is people coming together. So like, this seems like it would be a problem. And you're still here. Let's put so big ups to you. We were 2022. We got literally 2 years under our belt, and you're still here. So big up to you. Much props, because there are a lot of people who were not, and again, legitimately under no fault of their own, who were not able to survive. So big up to you for that.
Well, you know what? I want to talk a little bit about that because it wasn't all roses even before COVID, right? Okay. And so let me share that because I think this might free somebody. So I got the building in December 2018. Mm-hmm. I didn't come here to start like really working on it until like February or March 2019 because it was snowing. It was pretty bad winter, right? And so when I started to work on the building, not me personally, but the contractors, you know, like the roof needed to be fixed, you know, the whole bottom level needed to be renovated, and it took way longer than what I wanted it to. So I wound up hiring somebody that I probably shouldn't have hired because it took 4 months to renovate the space. And that one was because I didn't know anybody in the city yet, right? And so even when we opened our doors, I would say July 2019, even before COVID, which was beginning of March, we were struggling, right? We were struggling because we were going through the whose man is this? And so even if you have a resource that people need, here in Baltimore, you need to have connection and community. Like that is first and foremost. So that was the first thing. The second thing is we really didn't know how to talk, or I didn't know how to talk to the people in Baltimore. So I came with this very DC mindset of like, oh, well, I got a space, people got money, like what's the problem, right? Very different, right? And so you know what I'm talking about. DC is a very transient city, meaning like people come in and out all the time. You know, they're willing to just exchange
transaction because I may never see you again.
Exactly, right? So they don't really care to get to know you. Like, I'm going to have my event here. I'm going to be out. Here in Baltimore, did you go to City? Did you go to Poly? Where your mama stay? Where your grandmama stay? Where your auntie stay? And I had no answers for those questions because one, I didn't go to school here. I don't got no family here. And so it was a struggle at first. But I will say this, COVID was the hard reset that I needed to, one, temper down my ego, right? Or what I thought was best, right? And start to listen to people who are from the city. So I actually hired people from the city and we were talking about like how things get done in the city. And then that's when everything changed. So I think that for anyone who wants to come to Baltimore, don't just try to come here with your team. Just don't kind of come here with your team because you're going to fail, right? Like unless you have like big relationships that, you know, already they're funneling money to you. But like if you're starting mom and pop startup or whatever, work with the community, hire people from the community.
You know, be careful when you hire people from the community. First thing you need to know is get to know who they are.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that happens is that there is a whole group of people who do business in Baltimore, specifically with people who are not from Baltimore. And some of them are very good at it. Like some of them, like if they, Stephanie Jerger, If Stephanie Jerger brings somebody to the table, they're absolutely cool because I know she protects an engaged community. Darnell Wharton, one of the co-founders of Ceasefire. So if he brings somebody in, I know that they're coming through. But then there's some people who they just do enough to sell people who are not from here about their connects. They talk to you about you building your thing on the east side, and they bring you to the west side or South Baltimore and introduce you to all the people they know. And it's like, oh, cool. So you're not from here. You like, hell, they got a whole room of people down in South Baltimore. Cool. So it's one city, and next thing you know, you're investing in this building that nobody's going to come to because nobody from South Baltimore is coming to East Baltimore.
Yeah.
And so it's those kind of things. So again, make sure that you get to know people genuinely. And to your point, start with helping somebody. Start with, because everybody says they're going to everybody is so good in potential. Oh my God, the future versions of yourself were so amazing. Like the future version of me, when I was little, the future version of me could fly. He had invented a jetpack that he turned a chair with some boosters on it. He could do all of that. Mm-hmm. Now, and I thought about the math. I drew a picture and everything.
Yes.
And like with the fires in that. So like, you should have invested in it. It makes perfect sense. Look, you put it on a chair, you can fly. And it changes the entire transportation industry. And that sounds ridiculous, except that some people's business plans sound like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm gonna make this is the one I love. I'm gonna buy a big building, I'm gonna convert it and make it so that people could live for free and it'll have wraparound services. Because you are the first person in the world who has ever thought about that. Nobody else in all the history of Baltimore has thought about that, except in the 20 years I've been doing business consulting, I've heard that idea 4 dozen times at least. And one of the things I tell them is that, think about this. Either you believe that you are so creative that you have thought of an idea, a pretty, what seems to be obvious to you now, but an obvious idea nobody ever thought of, or that you somehow have the resources that nobody else has ever had. Sometimes things aren't done because there's a reason. Now, if you find out why they haven't been done that way, and you can figure out a way around that, that's different than just saying, I'm going to do it because it wasn't me who tried the last time. Well, I did try and tape 4 blow torches to the bottom of a chair. I did not achieve thrust. It did not. There was no thrust involved. And it did not work the way that my picture said it was going to work. Mm-hmm. And that's what many of my clients sound like when they talk about their business plan. And that's what some of them end up being. You end up with a scorched ass hole in the carpet, wood, in the carpet through the wood through the carpet, and you end up with a beating like you did, like ta-da, and in adult parlance, that beating is the debt that you're carrying for the rest of forever that you tried to pull together. Right. That beating is the harm in your reputation and your ability to even do activities that will be part of your identity from this point on. And you won't even have a good story about setting your house on fire like I do.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You know what? I'm gonna send my mother an edible arrangement. I just thought about that. Like, damn, yo, you know what? She the goat. I gotta give it to her.
Wait. So this is a real thing. Like, you really put a hole in the floor
through the carpet and scorch the wood.
I'm surprised you are still living.
Me too. This tells you how durable I am. Oh, I'm built I'm built for tough. Yeah, and I have proven I got literally scars to prove it, y'all. Don't get it twisted. I'm not always wearing a button-down shirt.
Yeah. So as you were talking, I was thinking about something, and I'm not sure where to connect this to, but I wanted to just shout out the first organization that actually gave us a grant, and it was a local organization here in Baltimore. So Collectively. So shout out to James.
Big up Jamie. Woo. Yeah, Jamie's a good friend of the show and to the channel. We love Jamie and the work he's doing at Collectively. Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna shout out Jamie.
Yeah. And so like that happened in the middle of COVID, and it, someone told me to apply, and I did, and it was like, hey, you got it. And I was like, thank you. Thank you. But it just says something like, when your first piece of capital that's non-dilutive, right? So for, for those people who don't know, non-dilutive, it basically no one's getting any ownership of your company, right? Where someone just looks at the work that you're doing and say, you know what, we want to fund what you're doing. I'm just really happy and thankful that it was a local organization in the city. So it just, validated to me. It's like, all right, so what we're doing, people are noticing. And so that's a good thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's a wonderful thing. I just looked around. I was like, oh, we, because I got to make sure we say it, because I have show notes, because I get excited when I talk to people that I know, so I have to remember. So one of the show notes is make sure you give her an opportunity to sell something. That's what every note is like. Before it's over, make sure you. And I looked at the time and I was like, oh, we got to give her time to sell something. So tell these people how they can give you some money. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, tell them that.
Yeah, so two ways, right? So right now, like I said, we're doing live events, but for those of you who don't want to do live events and you want to like do some type of hybrid or even event in the metaverse. And so think about anything that you could do on Zoom, AirMeet, or Hopin, you can do in the metaverse. So, don't get like, it's not that complicated. It's real simple. And so those are the two main ways that we're working with people right now here in the city. And so there's some other things that we're doing behind the scenes, like some trainings and some boot camps to really help small business owners understand what is possible in the metaverse. Because like I said, I don't want Black people to get left behind. My background in this work, is from 6 to 7 years ago. I was doing this work when I was in corporate. And so I saw what they were using it for. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a gold mine, right? But I want to make sure like our people get the information, because let's see what we can do as increasing net worth from 17,000 to 117 or 250,000 or to $1 million. Like, I just don't want to get, almost 15 years away where we're at zero and we're almost in this state of like, servitude, indentured servants, slaves. Let's not say that word, but it's a very real possibility where we have no negotiating and no buying power. And so I don't want that to happen.
And for me, big shout out to the people who pulled together the first union at Amazon in New York. Big ups to y'all. Because to your point, without people banding together and working for their common interests, those with power will continue to exploit them.
Yep.
What is a colonizer supposed to do besides colonize? That's like, what is a waiter supposed to do besides wait? A chef supposed to do besides cook? Like, you asking them to do you asking them not to do what they built for. Stop playing.
Yeah.
It is up to us to stop the colonization and hold them accountable. And because I know this ain't your part, let me go ahead and shift the screen, because I don't want nobody to attribute this to you by yourself. If we're going to talk about it, one of the ways that you address it is you take the stuff that was taken. If I break into somebody's house, I take their TV and I give it to my son for his birthday. He doesn't get to keep it. But somehow United States, well, okay, sure, all right, whatever. All right, so, Bianca, did you tell them how they can get in contact with you and stuff like that? Emails, telephone numbers?
No. So our number here at Brick Rose is 667-210-2138. So that's the phone number. The general email address is info@brickroseexchange.org. So think brick on a wall, rose like a flower, exchange.org. And those are the best ways. Sometimes people find us through Facebook. Sometimes they find us through Instagram and send us messages there. But if you can use the website, that would be even better.
We should probably have pull together some small business owners and really help our community understand like how to better help small businesses, because I don't think a lot of people understand the value. Until I started doing marketing, I didn't understand the value of just liking. I was like, that's not didn't even matter. But for a lot of small businesses, that like and subscribe really makes a difference sometimes in making money and not. Real talk. So
it does. I mean, the algorithms have you all messed up. Like, if no one's liking your stuff, then it starts to throttle it, right? Like, it stops showing to less and less and less and less people. And so even if you don't have a need for that service, just like it because they're a small business.
Yep. Let's see what else. I think that's about it I got from you. So you coming back though, right? This is not going to be like a idea. Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Like, oh yeah, I did that already. I don't have to do it. You can't see me on the same show twice. Oh. Just want to make sure we was beyond that. I didn't want to.
We are. I had a good time.
And now I got it on tape too, so you can't even take it back now. I mean, granted, Trump. Well, never mind. Separate.
That's another story. We not him.
I got too many shows just bottled up and pent up in me. Pent up in me. That's a lot of shows. That's why I do 5 days a week. You know, need to say a lot of stuff I need to work through. My therapy. Again, this show has saved me a lot of money in COVID.
Well, good.
Woo!
Good. But I know in addition to saving you a lot of money, I know that a lot of people get value out of it. Because I mean, something as simple as having a conversation of how you do business in Baltimore before you get to Baltimore or in your first few months can save people millions of dollars and also can avoid them going out of business. Yeah. Because it's not like a lot of the cities around the United States. It has its own culture, the way it moves, and like you said, a lot of the people who live here have heard it all before. They've met the white saviors. They've met the
black saviors.
Right. I was going to say black colonizers, but we can go with that too. Yeah, they met them all.
But they come just like the English did to the Muslims with the sword in the shape of the cross. Anyway, whatever.
You're going to get some emails.
Makes my
from some religious people.
Scratch it a little bit. Yeah. All right. See, we about to get in trouble.
Okay. Well, let's not get in trouble.
Well, I mean, I spent a lot of time in trouble, so I mean, it's not new. they know what you said. Bianca, you know what? Let me let you go. Are you gonna sit here and keep on talking? We've been trying to go for like 2 minutes or something like that. It's like, yeah, but one more thing before this is how you know our family from the South, where it's like you can never leave.
Right. But what's your one more thing though?
No, because it was a whole thing. I was going, yeah, you're not slick. Oh, you Southern. Yeah, I know what part of North Carolina your family from. I know that part. You're not slick. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Bianca of Brick Rose Exchange. Woohoo! All right, we will be black tomorrow. The thing moved. I don't know what the hell is happening here. The technology. This is what happened when I try to go on location by myself. I'm gonna be in so much trouble. Horses is not. Oh my God, everything's moving.